Jack here, JBF Music and Guitar Lessons, back with another quick guitar trick for you. Here we're looking at dialing in picking technique, timestamps on chapters below if you don't need much context. Now while it's all fine and well to intellectualise the process and understand where we need to put the work in, for me the whole two-way pick slanting thing was a bit of a mental revelation, legitimately a game changer, more on that up there. At some point we do need to switch off and trust that all that hard work has been internalised into muscle memory. Being largely self-taught, I've got many bad habits, which is a bit of an ongoing process to try and rectify. Some days it can take absolutely ages to get a consistent picking technique dialed in, and part of that is when I'm thinking about it too much instead of just doing it. To explain this, when you play something quickly on autopilot, you likely play it differently from when you're consciously going slowly. The former feels kind of fluid, smooth, relaxed, and pretty much effortless. The latter, clunky, awkward, tense, and probably involving a bit of brain strain. It's all about trying to minimise the bad guitar days, which, let's face it, happens to all of us. You know, the days when you're just not feeling it, it's just not happening. So what we need to do is take that sort of sensation of letting go and trying to apply it to slower passages. So I've just recently stumbled across this. Any suggestions or tips of your own, fire them down in the comments. You can pick any note. I'm going with this one, the 12th fret on the G string. Stay relaxed, more on that with a little eye up there. But start slowly, alternate picking. Then get faster, minimising movement in the process until you're essentially trem picking it. Now at some point in this process it sort of feels like there's a gear shift, there's something different happening. For me it's just there. I'll do that again. There. Now this is very difficult to explain in words. It's very much a feeling. You'll feel it kind of in your arm. But it's one you'll likely recognise. So the trick here is to take whatever your hand is doing at this ludicrous speed, that feeling of controlled confidence, and latch onto it. Now this time play slowly, don't speed up, and retain whatever that picking mechanism was that was going on. So again, let's build up to the trem picking, keeping it relaxed. And when that gear shift happens, that same feeling, but slow it down. So don't worry too much if you scuff a note here when you slow it down at first. If you kind of miss a note, it doesn't really matter too much. You want that kind of controlled and minimal movement going on. If you revert back to your usual slow style, just trem pick again, lock in, and reapply it. So if you're finding this useful, please do consider to do the old like, comment, subscribe, share type of stuff. So all these interactions really help out the video visibility and the channel in general. It would be very much appreciated. But yeah, now we want to use this but still at a slower tempo and go across different strings. Feel free to use your favourite picking exercises. All I'd suggest is start with either 2 or 3 strings before tackling a full 6-string lick or warm-up. Make sure to keep the fingering very comfortable. We don't want anything too taxing or distracting here. It's really not the time for stretchy 3-note per string pentatonics like up there. You might even want to write down the main goal on a piece of paper, just of keeping that feeling locked in. If you stray from it, either fall back into it or just do the trem picking trick to dial it back in. So I'm going to start off as I did before, slowly get the trem picking. So I'm latching onto that feeling and I'm going to slow it down. So I'm making care not to slip back into my usual kind of slow picking technique. And now I've got this going on, I'm going to apply it to the exercises. I sometimes need to remind myself with the picking on these lower strings to move my hand up, otherwise I kind of end up picking like this, and it's just really uncomfortable from a wrist. So just as a side note, I felt like I needed to interject there, because if I don't remind myself consciously to do it, I often have my wrist in a weird position. I also feel with these lower strings I sometimes have a tendency to kind of exaggerate the picking motion, so I'm just going to do the trem picking once more on this lower one. Cool, so that's, we got a decent idea of where I want my hand to be and how it should feel. So when that feels comfortable, go for like a full scale shape, or if you want some more interesting picking patterns, there's some with a little eye up there. I'm using a 3 note per string D Mixolydian shape, but just like before, I'm going to pick slowly and kind of in an exaggerated way that I normally would at slower tempos. Let it speed up, and when I feel that kind of trem and gear shift come in, latch onto that feeling. Keeping it nice and relaxed though, I'm going to try and apply that across all the strings. Now, as a side note, I used to be a very light touch player, but with not as reliable a technique. I found digging in kind of produced a more consistent and better tone in my views when recording. Less gain, more clarity. It's great for double tracking. I think I probably went a bit too far with the playing hard thing though. On the plus side, that style is very much in the bag, well, as best as I can get it anyway. So now it's a case of me working on the other side of the coin. If you're feeling the benefit from this, check out that warm-up tip. This has been Quick Guitar Tricks, that's your playlist there. But yeah, hit subscribe to keep up to date with the channel, leave me a comment, check out the tabs on my Patreon and enable all notifications by ringing that little bell on the side if you feel so inclined. Cheers guys.